Sound check 1, 2, 3. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Audit, Finance, and Administration Committee for Thursday, July 30th, 2026. My name is Jeff Beattie. I'll be your chair today. Joining us in chambers, Councillors Clark, Cooper, Maureen Wilson, Kretsch, Spadafora, Alex Wilson, and Councillor Huang. And a special acknowledgement that this is the final meeting for Sal Salomon, our legislative coordinator. And I think I speak on all members of the committee that we're going to miss you, buddy. Moving on. Okay. The vice chair, maybe not so much. Anyhow, Sal, we wish you the best as you move on to bigger, better things, but don't forget us here at AFNA. Okay. All right, we're starting. We have quorum present, so I'm calling the meeting to order at 9:30. Please remember that all electronic devices are to be switched to a non-audible function, which means please make them silent now. That includes watches, which I'm doing now. There are no ceremonial activities. We're going to move on to the approval of the agenda, which is item 3, and I understand that Councillor Alex Wilson may want to make an amendment, so I'll move to Councillor Alex Wilson first.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, we have some delegates from the Dr. Bob Kemp Hospice here as our first delegates. They're here on item 9.2. My motion is to move item 9.2 to before items for consideration, but upon completion of all delegations on all items on our agenda. And my seconder is Councillor Spadafora.
Okay. So
sorry to interrupt, Councillor. Did you mean items for information, not consideration?
Sorry, before information, after delegations.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we would move 9.3 up to
9.2?
the beginning, just in front of 7.1 then?
9.2, but otherwise
9.2.
correct.
My apologies, I got my numbers mixed up. So the motion would be to move the agenda item 9.2 to be just in front of item 7.1 to allow kind of a quick conversation on that. I think that that's a good news item. So I'd be happy to entertain that. And I'm looking around for a show of hands to see if all are in favor. And I see that that is unanimous. Congratulations. Okay, we're moving back to the approval of the agenda as amended. If I could have a mover and seconder in Councillors Wang and Spadafora, thank you. Any questions on the amended agenda? Seeing none, by a show of hand vote, all in favor, please. Thank you, colleagues. We're moving on to item 4, which is declaration of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none, we're moving on now to the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. This is item 5. This is from the meeting from July 9th, 2026, including the closed session minutes from same, item 5.1 and 11.1. If I could have a mover and seconder, Councillor Spadafora, Councillor Clark. Thank you. Any conversations about the minutes? Seeing none, please show of hand vote, all in favor. And that passes unanimous. Thank you, colleagues. We're moving on to delegations. This is item 6. Of course, a quick reminder to members of the committee that questions of the delegates are for clarification purposes only and not for debate. A note to our delegates, at the 4-minute mark, you will hear a ding, followed by another ding at 5 minutes. That will conclude your 5-minute speaking time. If you are still going, I may have to interrupt you, but I'll do it as kindly and delicately as possible. Also, under the procedural bylaw 5.1211, I just want to remind delegates who have previously appeared before the committee on a subject matter that speaking on a matter a second time requires new information to be brought forward. We don't want to keep talking about the same old things. So with that, I'm moving on now to item 6.1, Danielle, CEO of Kemp Care Network, respecting a waiver of development charges owing for Keaton's House, the Paul Paletta Children's Hospice. In person, Danielle, if you want to come on down. Once we get you set up, the moment you begin, that will begin your 5-minute speaking time, okay?
Okay. Good morning, Chair and members of the Audit, Finance and Administration Committee. My name is Danielle Zuquette, and I'm the CEO of Kemp Care Network. I thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today about Keaton's House and our request that the city waive the development charges associated with this critically important community project. My connection to Keaton's House is both professional and deeply personal. As CEO, I am leading a dedicated team working to create a specialized pediatric hospice for children and families across Hamilton and the surrounding region. I'm also Keaton's mother. Keaton's legacy is at the heart of this project and is a reason I believe so strongly that every family facing a child's life-limiting illness deserves care, comfort, dignity, and choice. Keaton's House will provide pediatric palliative care, respite, end-of-life care, grief counseling, and comprehensive support for the entire family. After years of planning, partnership, and perseverance, we are ready to pull our building permits and begin construction. However, before that permit can be issued, we must pay development charges of approximately $250,000. This cost now stands between a construction-ready project and putting shovels in the ground. Sorry, is it frozen here? There. I want to acknowledge that the city has been an important partner through this journey. The city helped us identify the land and has established the lease. It supported us through the planning and approval process and helped us move this project from an ambitious vision to a construction-ready community asset. I sincerely thank the mayor, council, and city staff for their leadership and support in getting us to this point. We're asking the city to take one more important step with us. Public funding for pediatric hospice care is limited, both for building the hospice and operating it once the doors open. As a charitable organization, we must raise a significant portion of the capital required to construct Keaton's House. We must then continue fundraising to sustain the specialized care children and families will receive. This places an enormous responsibility on our organization and on our community. Every dollar directed towards development charges is a dollar that cannot be used to build care spaces, purchase specialized equipment, or support the children and families who will rely on us. Keaton's House is not a commercial development. It's a healthcare and social infrastructure that will serve the entire community. The province recognizes hospitals through development charge exemptions. While Keaton's House will provide care in a more intimate, home-like environment, the services are still essential healthcare services. Families will receive specialized pediatric care, respite, end-of-life support, and grief counseling in a place designed around their unique physical and emotional needs. This is not simply a building, it's a permanent community asset. Keaton's House directly supports Hamilton's vision for a healthy, safe, inclusive, and compassionate community. It will improve access to pediatric health care and family support. It will bring together volunteers, donors, healthcare partners, and community organizations. Our services will welcome every family regardless of income, culture, faith, or background. Keaton's House will turn Hamilton's community priorities into meaningful, lasting action and for some of our most vulnerable children and families. Hamilton residents have said that they want a community that is healthy, inclusive, compassionate, and supportive. Keaton's House, Paul Pauletta Children's Hospice is an opportunity to make that vision real. Our capital campaign is a tremendous weight for our organization and community to carry. By waiving these development charges, the city can make a significant and tangible contribution to this project and to every child and family who will need this care. We are ready to begin. We're ready to put shovels in the ground. Today, I respectfully ask you to help us make Keaton's House a reality by waiving the development charges. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. Appreciate you being here today. Personally, it's very impactful. We have number of speakers that wish to ask you a few questions, and I know that you've got some technical expertise next to
Yes.
you in case the questions are of that nature. So we'll start with Councillor Alex Wilson, please.
Thank you. Hopefully not too technical. I think just you're here today because when you went to the building permit stage, that's when development charges became known to you, and that's when they were calculated. They weren't known at the planning stage, they weren't known at the land lease stage, just kind of confirming you're here now because this is the step in the process you're in.
Correct.
Thank you. From that lens of partnership, I think on one of your slides, and no need to pull it up, but you had it kind of broken down into those 3 phases of kind of partnership with the city. There's the land partnership phase, there's kind of that planning partnership before construction, and now there's that kind of working with the finance team around the development charges. Obviously, this has been approached kind of at each of those as that from that kind of perspective of we're negotiating a lease, we're reviewing a planning application, we're calculating development charges. From the perspective of being a partner with the city, wanting the city to maybe partner in future with other nonprofit organizations, are you just able to comment about if that kind of phasing of the work or phasing of the partnership helped kind of achieve this and kind of deal with things one at a time, or if it would have been helpful to maybe have a different process? I'm just wondering if you could provide some feedback around that kind of partnership model that you experienced as kind of very discrete, maybe.
Well, do you want to?
Yes, thank you very much. I think the process, anything that gives us confidence in where the total number is landing is always a benefit for the project. The process that you described that we did go through was very helpful in first understanding the site, understanding what we can do on there. As you mentioned, a partnership to go through and navigate that was incredibly helpful to build our confidence as money is being invested, a lot of it from donation funds. And as Danielle said, every dollar matters, and it really does. So how we spend our time, which is a financial contribution, to how we spend the money on the project and move it forward, the process has been very welcome, and we appreciate the city helping us navigate that.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Up next, Councillor Mike Spatafora, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to break the rules. I think I'm supposed to have questions, so I'm going to pretend like I'm asking a question, but I'm not going to. So you can stop me when you will. I just want to say thanks for coming. Danielle, personally, thanks for having the courage to do what you do. There's not a lot of people that have that courage, but there are a lot of people that went through similar things. So thank you.
Okay. I don't see any further. Oh, my apologies. Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Danielle, for coming today. It's great what you're doing. By us waiving this development charge today, can you give us a sense when Keaton's House will be live and active in taking in palliative care patients?
Yes, thank you. So from the construction side, we've scheduled fall of next year to open up and be able to deliver to the community. So we're very excited about this process getting going, and this is a huge contribution to help us get there.
And this really moves up that timeline to next fall. If this didn't happen today, you'd have to go through a whole fundraising exercise that could really push this out, maybe potentially years, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Doing a second check around the horseshoe to make sure that I haven't missed anybody. Thank you so much for being here, sincerely. If you want to hang out in the gallery, we've moved the agenda item up. So we'll get to that as soon as we've finished our delegations. If I can have a mover and seconder to receive this delegation, seeing Councillors Alex Wilson and Mike Spatafora. A show of hand vote, all in favor to receive the delegation, and that carries. Thank you, colleagues. Moving on now to item 6.2, 6.2A, Havis Hussain virtually. Havis, you are being able to speak on Ontario Works Value for Money Audit. I see you up there on the big screen. Welcome. You know the deal. You've got 5 minutes, and please keep it to new information with regards to the subject matter. Whenever you're ready, Havis.
Yep. Ask Sal if the slide is up, because just wondering if the clerks can put it up. It's just one slide.
Yeah, just give us a moment. We'll get that put up for you. Okay.
Thank
it
you,
is not-
Sal.
But
All right,
we won't be able to see you, just so you know.
that's fine. As long as you can hear me, that's all good. So thank you, Chair Beatty, members of the Audit, Finance, and Administration Committee, and the Auditor General. I'm here today to present new information only while the Ontario Works Value for Money audit is in progress. I continue, and the reason I'm here today is because I am flagging serious concerns of the city's management of Ontario Works overpayments prior for the Auditor General releasing his findings to Council and staff. On the May 28th ECS meeting, it was stated that outstanding overpayments were largely historic and dated back to the 1980s and 90s when this portfolio was managed by the former region of Hamilton Wentworth. However, records that I've obtained through Freedom of Information through the Ministry tell a very different story. According to the city's according to the ministry records, the outstanding Ontario Works overpayments balances in January of 2020. On January 2021, it was 39.91 million. On December 2025, which I've already presented previously, it was 56.9 million. And in 4 months, from December 2025 to April of this year, of April of 2026, it increased to 58.4 million. That represents over 11-year period, overpayments have increased $26.5 million in this city. And just in 4 months, under this council's awareness of the overpayment issue, it increased approximately 1.5 million. And on the slide, it says 1.4, so that's a typo, so I apologize. City Hall continues to increase its accounts receivables and liabilities without any real actions and collections. So given this information, this new information I received through FOI, it clearly shows that this is not a systemic historic issue relating to this portfolio when it was managed on the former region of Hamilton Wentworth, and it wasn't from decades ago. The balance continues to grow year after year, month after month, and in 4 months it increased 1.5 million. And this council continues to fail its mandate under the Municipal Act to staff accountable to manage this portfolio. My question is simple. Why has there been no efficient collection efforts? Why are staff not being transparent to the public? I've made several attempts to reach out to staff to provide this information since May 28th, but neither the staff or the city manager's office have acknowledged my emails or met with me. Why have overpayments increased 1.5 million to 58.4 million as of April 2026? As a council, I want to remind you, it's your fiduciary responsibility under the Municipal Act to provide oversight and guidance to staff on their legislative mandates to collect. Staff have presented that as of November 2024, newly terminated cases of Ontario Works overpayments have been transferred to the province. So if they have been transferred to the province to collections, including using Crown debt and taking it out of CRA, wouldn't this be reflected in the numbers and we see these overpayments being down? Why are there still continuing to have outstanding balances? Why is there no oversight? These are questions that the audit will be answering. And why has council not received regular reports from staff on what is being done to collect the amount and return it to the provincial treasury? Often this council advocates to the federal government and to the provincial government for money. However, how can the province fund money when there's outstanding collections that need to be returned to the provincial treasury? This committee is responsible for financial accountability and oversight of the city. I'm asking the Auditor General, as part of the scope of the audit, to look at this issue carefully and to review the city's overpayment recovery practices, internal controls, reporting processes, and if staff are actually referring newly inactive terminated cases after November 2024 to the province for collections. If they were, we would see this number coming down, but it increased 1.5 million in 4 months under this council's watch. As this audit will be completed shortly and this council term will be ending, council failed its mandate to oversight to collect this money. What is being restored to trust to put these receivables back in the provincial treasury and restore trust and accountability back to City Hall? I would like to thank the Auditor General, Deputy Auditor General, and the Auditor's General team to taking the time and dedication to complete this very thorough audit and have been the only department in the city that has taken the feedback from the public seriously. Why haven't staff have it meet with me as of today? It's time to restore trust, accountability for the taxpayers and for here at City Hall, as well as this next term of council. Thank you.
Thank you, Havish. I'm going to look around and see if we have any questions for you from members of the committee. And I don't see any, so thank you again for your delegation. We appreciate you bringing this to us. And we will no doubt see you soon. Okay, then. I'm going to go to 6.2B, which is Michelle McDonald virtually. Michelle, if you could activate your camera and microphone. You'll have 5 minutes, and at your leisure, please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of committee. I'd like to draw your attention to what I believe is a significant financial management issue facing the City of Hamilton. As of April 2026, Ontario Works alone has $58.3 million in outstanding overpayments. On top of that, as of December 2026, there is $68 million in outstanding provincial offenses fines waiting to be collected. Yeah, $68 million in outstanding provincial offenses act fines. We also know the city carries outstanding property tax balance, unpaid water bills, and parks and recreation fees, although the full amounts have not been publicly presented here today. When we look at these figures together, a clear pattern emerges. Hamilton doesn't just have an Ontario Works issue, it has a broader collections issue. At a time when residents are facing increasing taxes and service pressures, the city should be doing everything possible to recover money that is already owed before asking taxpayers to contribute more. My question is simple. When will the city centralize collections into one department with clear accountability, consistent collection practices, and measurable performance targets? A coordinated collection strategy could improve recovery rates, reduce outstanding accounts receivable, strengthen financial stewardship, and demonstrate to taxpayers that the city is committed to managing public funds responsibly. Thank you, and I look forward to your responses.
Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate you being here today. I'm looking around the chamber to see if there are any questions from members of the committee, and I do not see any. So thank you again for being here, and we will no doubt see you soon. Thank you. We are moving on now to 6.2C, which is Rosemary, the Small Ownership Landlords Ontario organization. I'd like to call upon Rose to activate your camera and microphone, and when you're ready, you'll have 5 minutes. Please proceed.
Good morning, Chair and members of the AFA Committee. As the Auditor General's Office proceeds with the value for money audit, I want to bring forward a growing concern affecting housing providers and Ontario Works recipients. The use of pay direct arrangements to support housing stability needs to be part of its scope to reduce fraud and waste and ensure that the shelter allowance is being used for shelter. In the Ontario Works Service Report presented to ECS on May 28, 26, the city identified that shelter allowances have remained unchanged since 2018, while average market rents in Hamilton have increased by approximately 39%. Nearly 90% of Ontario Works recipients rely on rental housing, with 84% living in the private rental market and only 5% accessing subsidized housing. Despite the reliance on private rental housing, there are concerns from housing providers that the city is not fully utilizing available tools such as Directive 3.7 pay direct arrangements to help prevent housing loss and keep residents housed. Through a Freedom of Information request, I found that in January 2024, Hamilton had approximately 12,000 Ontario Works cases, with 937 cases receiving pay direct arrangements, where benefits were paid directly to landlords. By January 2026, the caseload increased to approximately 13,000 cases, yet only 981 cases had pay direct arrangements, an increase of only 44 cases. Many of these arrangements appear to be directed toward third-party providers, such as non-for-profit housing providers, rather than private housing providers. This raises an important question. Is the city effectively using the pay direct directive as a homelessness prevention tool for the majority of recipients who are living in private rental housing? The committee should ask why Directive 3.7 is not being more broadly utilized with private housing providers when the city's own data shows that, and I'd like to underline this, 84% of Ontario Works recipients are living in private rental housing. Rather than increasing costs associated with homelessness response and expanding emergency shelter capacity, the city should focus on prevention by maximizing existing tools that help residents maintain their housing by expanding Pay Direct Arrangements 3.7. I keep receiving calls from landlords in Hamilton on OW issues, with the latest one on Norwich Road. Hamilton residents experiencing housing instability cannot wait for the problem to be documented year after year. They need meaningful action, measurable outcomes, and accountability. This committee should look into this now. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Appreciate you being here today. Looking around to see if there are any questions from committee members for you. Seeing Councillor Maureen Wilson up first, please.
Thank you. Thank you for your delegation. I'm sorry, I'm just seeking clarity. Your suggestion, could you just clarify the
Policy
issue
director.
you're trying to raise in reference to the number of individuals who are housed in the private housing sector? I'm not making the connection, please and thank you.
Okay, sure. So what we have is a situation when there are any rental arrears, a private landlord will try to contact the OW department and ask them to arrange pay direct. That is being blocked. It's not happening. The department may say that, yes, it is happening for some people, but when you look at the numbers, it's not happening. They're being, small landlords will often have the door shut on them and they'll say, no, we don't do it, or we have to do an investigation. So what I'm saying is that there's 84% of the private housing supplying residents who need housing. And it's significant compared to the amount that the OW department at the city of Hamilton, they will provide direct payment for people who come through your third-party agencies. Would you like me to name the agencies?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, that concludes the questions. I'm just going around to make sure that there are no further speakers. Rose, thank you for being here today. Appreciate it. And you're welcome to exit the WebEx and watch online if you'd like to continue to join us. So that is the end of 6.2 delegations. I need a mover and seconder to receive the delegations. Looking to Councillor Wang and Spadafora, thank you. If I could have a show of hand vote, all in favor of receiving the delegation, that is unanimous. Thank you, colleagues. We're moving on to 6.3, which is delegations respecting the Elgin Transformer Fund community uses. This is an item at 10.1. 6.3A, Margaret Bennett Beasley Neighborhood Association in person. Margaret, take your time, come on down, and we'll get you set up at the podium. And I'll just ask that our clerk staff can make sure that it's adjusted appropriately to the correct height for you. On the other side, there we go. And when you're ready, Margaret, you've got 5 minutes, okay?
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Margaret Bennett. I'm the Vice President of the Beasley Neighborhood Association. I'm here today to support the Elgin Transformer Fund Community Uses Ward 2 motion. In 2016, Hydro One determined that the aging Elgin Transformer Station, which supplies power to downtown Hamilton, required upgrading. At that time, the community and the parent council raised concerns that the station's hazards, sitting adjacent to Dr. Davies School in Beasley Park, and the proposed relocation, the station across the street that was then an empty block. Hydro One instead opt to refurbish it in place. The leading Ward 2 councillor, Jason Farr, to pledge the 2018, which was provided to the BNA in writing, that roughly 100,000 K in rental revenue from the station would go back to Beasley community and the Dr. Davies School. The following is a quote from Mr. Farr's letter. The community, through assembly of residents and Dr. Davies parents and teachers, may decide on how to allocate the doctors as they see fit, and in keeping with their pledge to fulfill community and school needs. I have a copy of that letter here, just in case anyone would like to see it. The community, the kids at Dr. Davies School in the Beasley neighborhood are currently underserved by the park and the school, and deserve better infrastructure to live happy and active lives. Given that Hydro One has paid the money to the city, it is very reasonable that the money should be held for the purpose of helping the Beasley kids. The BNA and the Dr. Davies School Council has formed a subcommittee to decide how to spend these funds. This is a challenging process that requires the coordination of multiple stakeholders and community consultation. The BNA is dedicated to ensuring that the process is fair and good decision is made that the benefits the community as these funds were intended for. Beasley Park is a special and distinctive space in our neighborhood. It should be a hub within the community for local families. Having these funds put into reserve has potential to make a big difference. It will allow stakeholders to make changes that focus on specific needs of the children at Dr. Davies and the Beasley community.
Thank you, Margaret. I'm going to look around the room and see if we have any questions for you. And I don't see any. If you've got documents that you want to leave with clerks, we can have one of our legislative assistants collect those.
I have the Hydro One letter that was dated July 21st, 2016.
If you wish to leave that with clerks, then it could be duly distributed. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Up next, 6.3B, Anya Leto. Come on down, Anya. And if need be, that pedestal can be adjusted. There's a little lever on your left-hand side. Okay, if you're all good, you have 5 minutes at your leisure. Please begin.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Anya Leto, and I'm here to speak in support of the Elgin Transfer Fund Community Uses. I am the school council chair at Dr. Davies Elementary School. Our school also includes the Beasley Community Center. 5 years ago, I started the school council after learning that Elgin Transformer Station project was nearing completion and Hydro One community benefit funds were available. However, for those funds to be used, input from both the school council and the Beasley Neighborhood Association was required. At that time, the school council no longer existed. The parents who had helped establish the original agreement had moved on as their children graduated. I saw there was a need, and so I stepped in to rebuild the school council and continue this work. Over the past 4 years, I have worked alongside a dedicated group of parent volunteers and the Beasley community who have donated their time to navigate the city's processes and engage our community in deciding how these funds should be used. I have also worked closely with the Ward 2 office over the last several years. This motion ensures that a decade of work can continue. This motion protects the funding already allocated to our community as we move into the next stage of the process following the city's report. Given the current condition of the playground at Beasley Park, many children rely on the school grounds as their primary place to play. Investing these funds in our community will have a meaningful and lasting impact on our children and families as they were intended to benefit. I ask that you support this motion so that the commitment made to the children of the Beasley neighborhood can be honored. Thank you.
Thank you, Anya. I'm going to look around and see if there are any questions. I'm wondering if I could turn the chair over to Vice Chair Spatafora just very quickly, and I probably should have asked Margaret the same question.
I will probably be able to answer.
You'll probably be able to answer. I'm assuming as much. Just in terms of the process, so you said that you've kind of reconstituted the Dr. Davey School Council.
Yes.
And you're going through a process of envisioning what comes next. I'm just curious as to where are you in that process? Have you started brainstorming? Have you started to get cost estimates? What level of granularity might you be able to provide in terms of your process so far?
So we formed a subcommittee. We met about a few times. We submitted all of our ideas. So the HSA, we have Wesley, the school council, and the BNA. That is, those are our community stakeholders in the area. We've met, we put together what all our ideas were. We submitted them to Ward 2, who, submitted it for the city to give back a report that basically itemized what each of those costs are. We got that report back in June. So this motion is to basically ensure that those funds that we've been all working for do remain because there's going to be an election. That is kind of our goal,
Understood.
So we are in the process of trying to narrow it down now to what exactly these funds could actually go for now that we have an idea.
Okay, so some considerable work has been put into this.
Yes,
clearly.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your time, Anya. I don't see any further questions. I'll take the chair back from the vice chair.
Thank you.
You may be seated. Thank you. Okay, I need a mover and seconder to receive the delegations for this item. Seeing Councillor Kretsch, Councillor Huang. A show of hands, folks. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you, colleagues. We're moving on directly to 9.2. So if you flip through your agenda, this would be a motion with regards to the DC relief in simple terms. Councillor Alex Wilson, if you would introduce your motion, please.
Thank you. Ultimately, what this motion does is it directs staff to waive the development charges that are associated with the building permit on this site. The development charges were accrued based on their various, whether it was a wastewater, et cetera. And so finance staff suggested the appropriate accounts to fund from. And that's what you find in the B, the funding sources. I think at a high level, why is this coming forward? And just for me, I think the key reason here, as someone especially who's talked a lot about development charges in this committee specifically, I'm looking at this through a lens of partnership. We are using city land, working with a nonprofit partner to achieve a goal that we said was worth subsidizing when we determined a nominal lease. We made some of these decisions about a partnership approach earlier in the process, and asking for $250,000 as part of the development charge piece, I think is just a lesson for me that would have been a better conversation, even though the numbers wouldn't have been specific, to have in principle at the lease stage. So everyone was on the same page, and maybe there's a different partnership where we want to make a different decision in the future with city land and nonprofit partner. But for this partnership, I think we made it very clear that this was going to be a nominal lease and that we were trying to offer in-kind support to get this project off the ground, including the finding of land and leasing of city land. So from my perspective, this is continuing on with a commitment that we had made at the beginning of this term. And my seconder, my apologies, thank you, Clerk, is Councillor Spatafora.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Alex Wilson. Up next on the speakers list, Councillor Tammy Wang, please.
Thank you. Highly supportive of this motion moving forward. Just a question is, they're a nonprofit, they're healthcare adjacent. Why do they have to pay DCs?
Okay, we're going to go up to the bench. If you'd introduce yourself, General Manager.
Yep. Through the chair, Mike Zakaric, General Manager of Finance Corporate Services. A development of this nature is not exempt statutorily exempt under the Municipal Act. And as Councillor Alex Wilson identified, notwithstanding the nominal lease that the city entered into with the network did bear responsibility of development charges under the lease. And for those two reasons, the issue is before committee today.
Councillor?
So I asked Lindsay Gillies because I wanted to know exactly why. So Lindsay was really good to explain that the criteria for exemptions on nonprofit housing and nonprofit retirement homes are set out in the Act, but a hospice does not meet those Act definitions for nonprofit housing or nonprofit retirement homes. So I just wanted to get that on public record as to why that's there. Thank you very much. Thank you, GM Zagaric, for your answer.
Okay, going on next to Councillor Brad Clark, please.
Thank you, Chair. I fully support this. Hospices in Ontario have this unique situation with the government. If you have a hospice in a hospital, like St. Peter's Hospital, they have a palliative care program right inside the hospital. They don't pay taxes, they don't pay development charges. But if it is a not-for-profit who sets up a palliative care program, whether children or adults, in a private building outside of a hospital, all of a sudden they're not a part of the healthcare system. It's wrong. It doesn't make sense. They should be getting similar funding that you would get within a hospital, but in private care from the Ministry of Health, and they should be treated more like a hospital because that's exactly what they're doing. They're providing palliative care. There's no emergency department, but they're like mini hospitals, helping people die with dignity, respect, and with their family and with love. There can't be anything more heartwarming and important to someone who's at the end of life than that type of treatment. So I understand the disconnect. I get that. I am a little bit frustrated that a lease agreement was signed and created by staff after knowing that the council had made the decision for a nominal lease. I would have thought that there would have been a trigger at the very least to say, oh, council, what about development charges? Because putting the development charges in the lease as an obligation for this organization is inconsistent with the original intention of the motion. So I support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. I'm looking around the room to see if there are any further questions. And seeing none, this has been duly moved and seconded. It will require an electronic vote. We'll see if the robots are fired up this morning. At the appropriate time, please indicate your vote electronically. I hope the next guy's faster, Sal. Oh my goodness. Please indicate your vote now. And that carries by a unanimous count, 8-0. Thank you, congratulations. Now I do need a mover and seconder to receive the correspondence. That's 9.2A, seeing Councillor Alex Wilson, Councillor Mike Spadafora. Any discussion on the correspondence? Seeing none, please indicate your vote by a show of hands. That is unanimous. Thank you, folks. And this will be ratified, no doubt, at the council meeting next Wednesday. Okay. We're moving now back to item 7. This is items for information, starting with 7.1 FCS 26053. And this is the Master Trust Pension Investment Performance Report as of December 31st, 2025. Looking to see if we have any questions for staff on this report. And I believe that we will receive all of these items together upon the conclusion of the items for information. So once again, looking to see if there are any questions of staff. And seeing none, we're going to move next to item 7.2, which is PW 26029, management response to report. Whoops. No, one moment. We've got the wrong one. One moment. Okay, in error. We are still at 7.2, but it is actually CM 26010, which is the Barton Tiffany Shelters audit response update. Looking for any questions from members of committee on this item. Seeing first, Councillor Brad Clark, please.
So, I'm not sure how to exactly ask this question. We got into the situation, the city got into a situation with the proponents, the people who were going to provide the materials. They were a brand new company. They had not registered, not done anything before. And we basically agreed we wouldn't go there again. And yet it would appear that we're going there again on a property in downtown Stony Creek with a company that's brand new and has no history. So can someone on staff indicate what's the difference between the two?
Looking to the bench for a response.
Through the chair, Grace Mader, General Manager, Healthy and Safe Communities. Councillor, I'd have to do some follow-up work on that, and I can circle back with you on that with some confirmation.
I would very much appreciate that. Thank you. In my mind, it's important that we learn from mistakes in the past and not repeat them. Thank you.
Okay. I'm looking around to see if there are any further speakers to item CM 26010, 7.2, which is the Barton Tiffany Temporary Shelters Audit Response Update. And I see no further speakers, so I need a mover and seconder, please, to receive the items for information. That is 7.1 and 7.2, seeing Councillor Tammy Huang, Councillor Mike Spadafora. If there are no further questions or conversation, I just need a hand vote to indicate your support. All in favor? Seeing that that is unanimous, thank you, colleagues. We're moving on now to item 8, which is items for consideration, beginning with 8.1 FCS 26052. This is the Master Trust Pension Statement of Investment Policies and Procedures. There is an overview coming from Director Brian McMullen. I'll turn it over to Director McMullen.
Thank you, through the chair. So this is as you read out, the Master Trust Pension Statement of Investment Policies and Procedures. It's a required annual review that we have to provide. We typically go with this report to the Hamilton Municipal Retirement Fund and Hamilton Wentworth Retirement Fund Pension Advisory Committee. There hasn't been a meeting scheduled for some time, so we needed to bring it forward to Audit, Finance and Admin Committee directly. What we've done in this particular report, part of the update with our consultant, is we've added some additional wording around what types of investments we might be able to pursue. And in particular, it's annuities. They were permitted investment, but it wasn't specifically in our past SIP, our Statement of Investment Policies and Procedures. So that's the main change that we did regarding that. The reason for that was related to some surpluses that we have in the 3 legacy pension plans. And it provides us some options going forward with the types of assets that we invest in, and some advice that we've received from our investment consultants and our actuaries about purchasing. We're looking forward to purchasing annuities. So we're going down that path, having that discussion, and determining what that process might look like. So that's the main change in this SIP.
Okay, thank you, Director McMullen. We're going now to any questions from members of committee, beginning with Councillor Brad Clark, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can I ask Director McMullen to explain a little bit further exactly what the change is? It sounded like we are now looking to invest in something that we have not invested in the past, and I still remember not fondly the asset-backed paper debacle that occurred in the province of Ontario and many municipalities got burned. We were fortunate enough to resolve it at litigation, but I worry about what we are now doing without having more information as to what you are doing.
Director?
So through the chair, our investment advisors and our actuaries have some experience in annuity purchases in the process to purchase an annuity. And essentially there are two types of annuities that we can purchase related to these, in this case, the pension investments. There's one type of annuity that we can purchase, and the city would still have responsibility to pay the pensioners. We have about 1,000 pensioners, beneficiaries on these three legacy pension plans. So one way we would transfer, so in the case of Hamilton Municipal Retirement Fund, there's about $60 million in assets. So we would go out to market and meet with look at the insurers and see what that would look like if we provided them with the $60 million, and then they would manage the fund, and it would set reduce the risk for the investments in equities and bonds, which is our current investment strategy. So that's the one option.
Okay, and I've got a little more information coming from General Manager Zagarek, please.
Yeah. Through the chair, I appreciate the question. How staff are approaching this is, as per the reports, you'll note that this fund is actually in a surplus position. It's 113% funded. And it is weighted 50% in fixed income and 50% in equity. We need to de-risk this fund. The fact that we're in a surplus position, we shouldn't be pursuing growth income investments. We need to de-risk and ensure a stable and consistent funding stream that will benefit retirees and meet our obligation. That, to Councillor Clark's question, that is the objective, is to reduce the risk that the city is currently exposed to with our current investment strategy.
Okay, Councillor Clark.
So if I could say what I think I heard, Chair, is that the City of Hamilton is going to continue to invest in bonds and withdraw from equity investments on the trust, pension trust. Is that correct?
Through the chair, generally that's correct, fixed income. So we want low risk fixed income and changing the weighting, but with respect to annuities as well, it ensures that we meet our future obligations with less risk and a more consistent funding stream. Not more consistent, apologize, a better understood funding stream because again, more weight on fixed income.
Councillor?
So the type of annuity, I'm familiar with annuities that the insurance companies sell to people where they take a pile of equity and then create a payback program where over a period of time that money will be paid back and they earn investment income, usually high interest earnings on that annuity. Is that going to be the same thing here?
General Manager?
Through the chair, I think we want to investigate what our options are with respect to annuities. We haven't predetermined the form of annuity, but recognizing there's risk in the current profile, yes, and we want to proceed with a lower risk strategy.
And so will the team be coming back to this council with the results of their investigation into options for investments in annuities?
Through the chair, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Clark. I'm looking around to see if there are any further questions, and I don't see any, so I need a mover and a seconder to approve the recommendations contained within this report, seeing Councillor Crutch, Councillor Spadafora, and please indicate your electronic vote now. And that passes unanimously 8-0. Thank you, colleagues. We're now moving on to item 8.2, which is amendments to the OBL, the Outstanding Business List. If I could have a mover and seconder to approve the amendments within the OBL, seeing Councillor Spatafora and Councillor Huang. Thank you. Any questions about the OBL update? And seeing none, this will require an electronic vote. Please indicate your vote now. And that carries unanimously 8-0. Thank you, colleagues. We're moving on now to motions, beginning with 9.1. This is support for the Ottawa Street Business Economic Improvement Area, the annual sidewalk sale event to offset the economic impacts of the closure of the Main Street East and Ottawa Street intersection. Councillor Huang, if you could please introduce your motion and your seconder.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by my colleague on BIA subcommittee, Councillor Maureen Wilson. This is a motion asking for committee's help on supporting the Ottawa Street BIA. The BIA will be suffering a significant disruption to their business because of the Main and Ottawa Street closure. This is for LRT enablement. Construction has already started, but they will experience a full closure of that intersection August 17th, and it will go for approximately 4 months. And if we think about the timing wise from August, they're almost into December. So this is where they still want to continue with some of their work. Specifically, this is for their annual sidewalk sale that happens sometime in September. And there is significant cost in closing down the street, but the street's already kind of closed. And then so there's a lot happening here. So this is asking committee that a grant to the Ottawa Street BIA support the delivery of the Ottawa Street annual sidewalk sale be funded from the Ward 4 Capital Discretionary Account 33023094000 to an upset limit including contingency not to exceed $9,400, subject to have the funding be used for eligible event related expenses, including but not limited to road closure costs, event programming, logistics, and other expenses that directly support the delivery of the annual Ottawa Street BIA sidewalk sale. That the remaining eligible event costs of the Ottawa Street annual sidewalk sale be funded from the Economic Development's one-time funding request stream account 55948-8202203206 to an upset limit, including contingencies not to exceed $9,400, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute any required agreements and ancillary documents with such terms and conditions in a form satisfactory to the city solicitor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Huang. Looking to see if there's any questions from committee members about this motion, and I do not see any, which means it has been duly moved and seconded. Please indicate your vote now. And that carries unanimously. Congratulations, Councillor Huang. Thank you, colleagues. We're moving on now to item 9.3, Roots Youth Center one-time emergency funding. Councillor Alex Wilson, if you would please introduce your motion and your seconder.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Of the next kind of following motions, if you'll allow me, we did our intake for our community grants process, and then 2 requests came in outside of our traditional request. This is one of those 2 requests. I'll admit that this is a bit non-traditional. I'll say that Councillor Spatafora agreed to second this one. In terms of the grants process, the Roots Youth Center offers drop-in programming for youth in the Dundas area. Predominantly food security programming has been a growing area of demand. At the same time, as I think many folks who have nonprofits in their wards and communities will know, that these past couple of years not only have met surging demand on frontline service, same that all food banks are experiencing across our city, it's also been met with a decline in fundraising dollars, volunteers showing up, and some of those things at the same time. This organization has gone through a huge transition and is trying to keep its doors open while it applies for grants, while it works without having some of the staff supports it had to kind of pare down. It's going through a dramatic transition. It's provided 50 years of support in the Dundas community, and this funding ensures that until the winter season, and they can have a chance to kind of, again, 6 more months of fundraising, a new operational plan and a new organizational structure, continue to provide the food security programming that they do provide for students in the Dundas area. That includes being able to drop in before school, ensure there's breakfast, being able to drop in after school, get a snack, and being able to take brown bags to school sometimes for lunch as well. So those are the types of programs that aren't part of their traditional service that they started implementing and created a huge funding pressure, but also were met with such a surge in demand that they couldn't stop as an organization. Kind of the perfect storm. This funding is meant to give them a bit of a bridge to see what the committed volunteers and the folks who are trying to get that organization on a path can do with that time, and ensure that there's not a disruption for the families and families and youth currently relying on that service and counting on those breakfast programs and lunch programs come the September season.
Okay, thank you. And I believe you said your seconder was Councillor Mike Spadafora?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay. I don't see any questions about this item, so we'll move directly to the electronic vote. Please indicate your vote now. And that carries unanimously. Congratulations, Councillor. Thank you, colleagues. We're moving on now to item 9.4, which is the Ward 13 community grants. Councillor Alex Wilson, if you would introduce your motion and your seconder, please.
Thank you. This one is our standard grants. These are the ones that kind of fit within our $5,000 max, seconded by Councillor Kretsch. The 10 applications are below. You can see that not all applicants received the max. There was some evaluation. Happy to answer questions. These are all community associations. Most of the dollars go directly towards a programming or outcome specific into the ward. I think one of the ones, for example, in the past that is coming back again is they did a youth theater camp previously, the Dundas Little Theater. Reflecting on that, what they were able to do at a kind of a teenage level, they've asked for funding to do something actually with younger audiences. They're able to continue kind of the programming they had launched previously, now excited to look at continuing this forward. Thank you.
Okay, and I don't see any questions from committee, so therefore we will move directly to an electronic vote. Please indicate your vote now. And that carries unanimously. Congratulations, Councillor Alex Wilson. We're moving on now to item 10.1. And this is a notice of motion, but I understand that Councillor Kretsch, you have a notice to waive the rules to introduce this. So we'll begin by that motion to suspend the rules. If you'd like to speak to it.
Second by Councillor Wilson. Just wanted to speak. Yeah. Okay. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Maureen Wilson to waive the rules.
Okay, and normally we just get a reasoning as to the
Yeah, it's because there's no legislative time left in this term of council, and this is time sensitive for that reason. And I'll explain why when we get to it.
Okay. So we'll begin, colleagues, with a motion to suspend the rules. And I see, is there a question? No, no questions? Okay, we have it moved and seconded, so we're going to begin with the electronic vote to suspend the rules. Please indicate your vote now. And that carries 8-0. Okay, we're going to proceed with the introduction of the motion. Councillor Kretsch, if you would indicate the motion and your seconder.
Yeah, it's moved by Councillor Maureen Wilson, and this is a bit of a strange motion. I recognize that up front, and I'm going to suggest a change to the wording to address one issue that I think is probably missing from the motion upon further reading it again for the probably 10th time I've read it and missed it the first 9 times. That's on me. But the issue here is pretty straightforward. When this parking lot was taken over to build the Elgin Transformer, it had a pretty negative impact on everybody in the community, on the park residents, neighbors, students, and there was a discussion at that time with former ward councillor, well, what are you going to do here to ensure that there's some benefit given back to the students for the many years that all these areas were closed down and we couldn't use them because the transformer was being built? And what Councillor Farr told people at that time was, well, we're going to get the Elgin Transformer folks to pay rent to a fund that rent for closing all that space down, basically, because they were taking over that space to do the building. The rent for all that space, we put in an account, and then what will happen is it'll be put back into the community. And at that time, he signed a letter, which he had no authority to do for the record. He signed a letter saying that the BNA, the Beasley Neighborhood Association, and the parent council at the school would be the ones who come up with the projects to be decided upon, to be spent, that money to be spent on. So that's what he did at that time. He penned the letter, and this was all done. Now, the way it's set up currently in the reserve account is exactly like discretionary funding. There is nothing stopping me from bringing a motion tomorrow during this room of council to say, this is how I think we should use this, and then council can approve that motion. It's specifically, that's the kind of situation it's currently in a discretionary reserve. So one of the problems, though, is that the Beasley Neighborhood Association is trying to figure out what projects they want to do. And they haven't come to a decision yet about that with the parent council, about what exactly the projects are going to be. And it's taken a long time to cost some of these projects, as you can imagine. Some of them are complicated. They're about improvements to the skate park. Some of them are improvements to the park itself. Some of them are improvements to Simone Hall, which is a little community center there. Some are about the Beasley Community Center. All of the little projects, capital projects I should add, are all kind of complicated. So we don't want to run out of time and have no motion formally about this ever. So that's why it's here. And it's not in here, but I'm happy to add some language that says that the actually has to come back to council for approval at the end. That's always been the intention. But the goal of codifying this here is to ensure that those parties know that this money is going to be used for that purpose as they were promised to have been used in the first place. At that time, a motion should have just come forward in 2018 when that occurred. It just never came forward. And so that letter has been circulated to clerks. You can see it if you want with the former councillor's signature on it. There's a letter from Hydro One detailing that this is the reason why they have the account, and they've agreed that this is where the money is going to be spent. Like, all this is in other letters and places. It's just not here. So the whole purpose of doing this is to make sure that it's here, that we understand what's happening here. We're codifying this so that there's no risk that somehow anyone in the future would come along and just say, well, I'm going to just move that over here. Because technically, I'm going to say it again, I could do that without a motion. I could ask that that money be moved somewhere else because there's nothing holding it to this specific use in the city's records. So right now, it just sits as a line item in the discretionary reserve, and it's kept separately. And that's only because I've been making sure it's been kept separately. But at any time, I could have just said, well, throw it in the big reserve, you know, and leave it in there, and then there would be no earmarking for this use. So I hope that provides a bit of a history. And you heard from delegates today. Many have been participating in this organization for a long time, and they're just nervous that nothing's ever been codified about this. So what are we going to do? I think the change I want to make is just to ensure that somewhere in this language, and I'll leave clerks to add it in the appropriate manner, that once the list of projects has actually been decided on, right, that actually has to come back here. That's what we, with everything, small grants, that have to go through that process. That was implied but not written, so that once we actually get the costing for everything, it comes back here, we give it a final stamp of approval so everyone can see what it's going to be spent on in case there's any objections to the actual items themselves. I hope that explains the situation. Again, I realize it's a little bit awkward, but I think it's the right thing to do to bring this forward and make sure it's codified so staff aren't wondering what to do with this. The community's not left shrugging their shoulders, and we can finally keep good on the promise that was made.
Okay, so just on that, I think you've suggested something of a housekeeping item, an addition of a new B, moving B to C, maybe the addition of a number B that would see this return back to this body for final approval on all expenditures. I'm looking to Elsie Salomon. If we can come up with some wording while we entertain some questions, would that be appropriate?
Through the chair, yes, you can come up with some wording and send it, and we can make the amendment. You can also do this at council. It is up to committee.
Yeah, I think the wording is pretty straightforward. I'm just going to say it out loud, and then that the final list of expenditures come back through this committee, just like the grants process, right, for council ratification, just like every other thing. I don't think I need to make a special sentence for that, but that's it. That comes back here for council ratification.
So then we will see the addition of a new section B with that wording. We'll finalize that. We can throw it up on the screen so that we know what we're talking about, so that it is crystal clear before it moves to council next week. And in the meantime, I will turn to Councillor Brad Clark, please.
So questions to staff. Was this fund, was there ever a policy applied to this fund? Notwithstanding a letter that was signed by Councillor Farr, which made a promise, and I don't think councillors can bind city councils to anything, including Mayor Eisenberger, who made a promise to the Ukrainian community about a flag that would fly until the end of the war, and he doesn't have the authority to do that either. I'm worried about this. I appreciate the councillor's attempt to codify it. I'd like to understand what language is going to be there for the councils that will be here many years from now. There should be a policy, a document, something showing what's going on here.
Okay, I'm looking to the bench to see who's going to take that. I believe it's General Manager Zagarek.
Through the chair, this revenue stream is realized through a lease agreement. In 2016, Council approved that any revenues relating to lease agreements, easements, right-of-ways, signages within specific wards, that those revenues be directed to a ward-specific capital project to be used for initiatives within the ward. So that was approved in 2016, and it's within that framework that these license proceeds would fall under.
Councillor?
I heard you say capital. Is it restricted to capital or social services as well?
Through the chair projects, through the chair 2016, it identified projects operating costs are exclusive.
So operating costs are not permitted?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay. I'd like to hear the added language and then I'll make the decision. I think the councillor's doing the right thing by trying to codify it. I use the example of the landfill royalties in Upper Stony Creek. The codification of that was through the environmental compliance agreement. So it's very clear what we can and cannot do with that money. And we need to do the same thing here. Notwithstanding any written promise, we go by policy and bylaws. We have to maintain that. So I appreciate Councillor Kretsch trying to correct this situation. Thank you.
Okay. Going back to Councillor Kretsch for a second time, please.
Yes, as you heard from General Manager Zagarek, there's already some codification in our city's policies with respect to making sure this is spent on capital costs, not operational costs, and that's the overguiding policy here, as well as the lease agreement from 2016 from Electra, I believe it was at the time. And so that's there already. What I'm doing, and Sal can read it out, is just adding one more piece of language to make sure that those final list of projects comes back to council for codification. That way everybody can see them. That was always implied, by the way, but I realized it wasn't written out, so now it's going to be there. And Sal, if you wouldn't mind sharing that when you're ready to.
Yeah, we're going to get that up on the big screen in just a moment so that we're all looking at the same item. Okay, thank you for making it really small, Sal. Okay, so this is going to change the resolution that is before us in the following manner. A stays the same. There is the addition of a new B. And if it stops moving on the screen for a second, B, that before funds can be dispersed, a list of final projects to be funded be approved by council. And I see nods that the intent is captured. I have the general manager with a comment or question.
Through the chair, maybe I'll just ask the mover, Councillor Kretsch, whether C is still relevant at this time or may create ambiguity and confusion around authority, and whether that should come back through the...
Yeah, you could take C away now. That makes sense. I see your point. Yep. Thanks
so C is no longer required. Nope. That will be strucken out. So we now have a new B that has been thoroughly discussed, and I see some satisfaction. Staff understand the intent, I believe, from the bench. So we will now move to any further questions, and I don't see any. Councillor Kretsch, are you
I just
Sounds
want to
fine.
make sure I read this really quickly. One thing, sorry. Just want to make sure I made a mistake. Nope. I just wanted to make sure that both of the parties were named, the Beasley Neighborhood Association and the Parent Council at Dr. J.E. Davies School are named in that, therefore, because that's ultimately what I want to codify, is to make sure that we understand that they're the folks who are going to be bringing this list of projects forward, and they're the ones that are going to be getting council approval for the projects. I think that was always the worry, was that without that in writing, that piece in writing, that somehow it would just be, something might happen to it. Because anybody here can bring a motion about anything, any reserve any councillor has, right? So this is protecting that from happening in the future. Thank you.
Okay, so we have thoroughly discussed this, and the intent, of course, being that before city funds are spent, this would return before this body for final approval. And it's more of a consultative piece on the projects at hand with the Beasley Neighborhood Association and Dr. Davey Parent Council. Okay, so with that in mind, I'd look for an electronic vote now. Please indicate your vote. And that carries 8-0. Congratulations, Councillor Kretsch. We're now moving on to 10.1A, which is correspondence from Viv Saunders. Respecting Elgin Transformer Fund community uses, I have a mover in Councillor Clark, a seconder in Councillor Huang. Please indicate your vote by a show of hands. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you, colleagues. We are now moving on to 10.2. Dundas, it's the Dundas show today. Councillor Alex Wilson, please introduce your motion. I understand that we're starting with a movement for the suspension of the rules. If you would indicate your mover and seconder.
For both the motion and the motion to waive the rules, we have Councillor Wang this time. And on the timing piece, this is our deadline to use these types of funds, get approval. I mean, I could bring it to council without notice, but I figured this is more notice than that. And it's just the reason this one's without notice and the other ones aren't is just administrative things. As you can tell, we are maybe making it close to that noonish deadline. Thank you, Sal. This one came in on the other side of that, and that's why we're asking to waive the notice.
Okay. And your seconder is Councillor Tammy Huang. Any questions about the suspension of the rules? Seeing none, please indicate your vote now. And that carries 8-0. We're moving now to the introduction of the motion. Councillor Alex Wilson, if you'd introduce your motion and your seconder, please.
Thank you. Again, it's Councillor Wang. Just a bit of backstory on this one. Dundas Community Services is a local community service provider in the Dundas area. You've heard me talk about them a lot before. The Ward 13 councillor is also a member of the board. Is an interesting, I think, arrangement. So they're kind of one of those arm's length-ish agencies. They receive funding from the CEF. And as a result of the historic kind of strong partnership between the organization and the former town of Dundas and now the city of Hamilton, prior to the cybersecurity incident, they were on our system. Through the Hamilton Library, they were receiving as one of very few social service agencies across the city, but they had their own little door and they got their IT support through Hamilton Library. As a result of some of the changes we've made after cybersecurity and a lot of our Build Back Better, we're not continuing those types of arrangements with small partners. And so that has effectively, from their perspective, they were getting a service provided by the city that is no longer being provided in an in-year cost that's a download. So when you think about that's getting a contract, that's making sure that they have database, that's, from their clouds, building their own cloud system as opposed to using something kind of built within the broader city system. And so there are some costs both in software as well as one-time navigation. And frankly, this is a operating cost. We all pay internet monthly at our homes that just was not part of their annual budget. So giving them a chance to regularize this as a cost that they're going to be doing from donations or grants that they receive, but as part of their ongoing business. And this is just a one-time regularization support as well as some initial capital.
Okay. Thank you for that. I'm looking to see if there's any questions. And seeing none, we will move directly. Oh, my apologies. Councillor Brad Clark, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm a little bit confused. Can I ask for clarification? Did this program, Dundas Community Services, receive the IT support from the City of Hamilton before the cyber attack, and then the city of Hamilton decided, yeah, we're not doing that anymore?
I would invite corporate services to maybe add more detail, but what I can offer is through the Hamilton Library, specifically, which is part of the broader service, that was the partner. So it wasn't done through kind of Hamilton IT, but it was done through the library's IT, and as a result of that. So maybe there could be a better answer, but yes, to the end is we are no longer offering those arrangements is the outcome, and so they're now trying to normalize and regularize that. But I would welcome any better answer.
So who can answer my question?
So I'm going to look to the bench to see who is best positioned to offer an answer to your question, Councillor Clark. I think General Manager Zagarek will take a stab at it.
To the chair, I would suggest we could take this question away before council. I apologize, I'm not familiar with any previous relationship this community group had, either with the city or with Hamilton Public Library.
Okay, Councillor Clark.
So to clarify, just so that I can get answers to this, what I hear from the ward councillor, and he does his homework, is that the library provided the IT service to this community group, and the city, after the cyber attack, is no longer providing that IT service to the Hamilton Public Library. And I don't recall that ever coming here for a decision of council to shut the door on services that we were providing to the library. So can I hear back from GM Zagarek on that matter specifically?
Okay, we'll see if there's any further clarification.
Yeah. Through the chair again, I don't have any specifics or understanding of the previous relationship and how or if the cyber incident affected that relationship. Happy to take that away and gather that information before council.
So notwithstanding that, I support Councillor Alex Wilson's motion, but what he said in his preamble kind of put a red flag up. And so I'd like to understand that better. But thank you, Councillor.
Okay, I have Councillor Cameron Kretsch up next, please.
As a member of the Hamilton Public Library Board, I can give you a brief answer, and maybe that'll help you. And if not, you can reach out to the CEO, Paul Takala, who can answer the question. But when the cybersecurity incident occurred, the library was probably one of the most disproportionately impacted organizations in the city. And the reason for that is because the kinds of services that the library provides to its patrons, especially those public-facing services, are not provided by other organizations. So people rely heavily on computer access. They rely heavily on the ability to be able to use systems to check out books, these kinds of things. Now, luckily, a lot of the systems that were used to check out books weren't impacted in the same manner, but basically it shut down public access to computers for everybody in the city for a very long time. Because when that happened, the library didn't have any way of restarting that system and getting it back out there to go through the verification processes and the way it was set up. We lost a lot of things. So, long story short, library can't be in that position ever again. So the library has to have an independent system for it to be able to offer those services to the public. That's the brief answer. So it can't be as entwined with the city's IT infrastructure as it used to be. But you could ask the CEO for more details than that.
If I am understanding your response, Councillor Kretsch, the library has made a decision in the reconstruction of their system to no longer support any of the smaller organizations that they may have in the past. So it's more about the library changing their direction than it is about the city. Councillor Clark, did you have a second time question? Please proceed.
So trying to clarify, then the changes that the library board made in response to what happened at the city, are we getting, is the Hamilton Public Library Board being fully funded for those services from the city? Or did you have to pick up some of those things on your own as the Hamilton Public Library?
Okay, Councillor Kretsch.
I would say it's a bit of a circular problem because 100% of the funding for the Hamilton Public Library comes from the city. So that's one of the issues that I think we're faced with when it comes to things like the police board, the public library, other kinds of places. Really, ultimately, we're paying for all those kinds of things. It has been a change in how we look at it from our budget perspective. So when you look at the library's budget, it looks different. And I believe 2 budget cycles ago when the CEO was here, he spoke to a need to increase rather dramatically one of the line items, and it was specifically because of that. Now, all that meant really was that the funds that were being used by the city to pay for those services now became more visible in the library's budget, but it's 6 of one, half dozen of another.
Yeah, I'm aware that the city pay substantially the bill for the Hamilton Public Library, but I'm also aware that the Hamilton Public Library accepts donations to support Hamilton Public Library. So I wanted to clarify that the onus was not being put on the library and they had to pick up additional costs because of something that the city had done.
No, that's not the case. It's more
whole.
about the IT infrastructure and making sure that they could operate independently so that they can continue to provide those services no matter what. And part of, as I'm sure we all know now, part of that is limiting risks from outside organizations as part of it. I'll also say that most bequests and donations to the library are in the form of bequests, a lot of them are, and they're earmarked for specific things. And so we can't really be using them for things like this. Usually they're meant for things with respect to materials.
Thank you. That clarification helps me a great deal. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you all. This has been moved and seconded. It is now before us for an electronic vote. And that carries unanimously 8-0. Congratulations, Councillor Alex Wilson. So we are at the end of our public portion of our agenda. We are now going to move into the private and confidential section. If I could have a mover and seconder to move into private and confidential, seeing Councillor Cooper and Councillor Spadafora. Thank you. Pursuant to Section 9.3, subsections B and F of the city's procedural bylaw, 21-021, as amended, Section 2392, subsections B and F of the Ontario Municipal Act 2001, as amended, as the subject matter pertains to personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and the advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. If I could have a show of hands to move into private session. Colleagues, please indicate your vote by a show of hands. That is unanimous. Thank you. We'll be moving into private session in a moment. Members of the public are reminded to come back and join us following the closed session portion of the meeting, when you'll see members of the committee rejoin the meeting. The committee will wait up to 5 minutes upon reconvening an open session before proceeding with the meeting to provide members of the public and the media the time to return. Before we move into closed session, I would ask that all members of the public please exit council chambers and the WebEx meeting now. Any staff that are not directly related to the in-camera portion are asked to please exit the meeting as well. A reminder to all members of committee to please ensure that you are moving into the closed session portion of eScribe electronically. But also remind members of the committee that as per section 8.7 of the procedural bylaw, the use of personal electronic devices during the closed portion are strictly prohibited, and the use of city electronic devices during closed meetings is limited to text communication only and not as a telephone recording device or camera. Staff from the office of the city clerk are exempted from subsection 8.7c when using electronic devices for record keeping purposes. We will see you in a few minutes. I'm going to try. Just waiting for the thumbs up that we're ready to continue. Well, good. LC, Salomon? Okay, we're going to continue now. We're back in open session. We've waited a few minutes. What I need now is a mover and seconder for the report that we received in private session to be received and remain confidential, referring to AUD 26007, the Auditor General reporting of serious matter to Council. That is report 97509. If I could have a mover in Councillor Alex Wilson, seconded by Councillor Tammy Huang. We need an indication of your support by a show of hand vote. All in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you, colleagues. And being that there is no further business, we are going to adjourn this meeting at 11:39. Thank you, folks.